How's it going out there, YouTube? My name is Jesse, and I am the curator for the Golden Age, and this is another
Lost Origins of the Golden Age.
Yes, this is Lost Heroes of the Golden Age, and this time we are going to be covering the Star-Spangled Warrior, the Shield Slinger, the Sentinel of Liberty, none other than
Captain America!
Really?
Well, that's my line.
Okay. We are covering the origin of Captain America. Captain America has been retconned many times over the years, and this is going to show you his actual origin. It's shorter than you think, but we are going to do a brief little bit about some of the changes while we go into the first appearance of Captain America.
Which Captain America are you doing?
What do you mean, which Captain America? There's only Steve Rogers in the Golden Age.
William Nashted and Jeff Mace.
William Nashted and Jeff Mace were not part of the Golden Age Captain America. That's all retcon.
Golden Girl wore the cape. Retcon is canon.
Golden Girl wearing Will Nashton's bulletproof cape and teaming up with Jeff Mace was retconning. In fact, when Betty Ross first became Golden Girl, Cap revealed his secret identity, and she said, "Hey, you're Steve Rogers. There's no way for him to have been Jeff Mace." That's all retcon. Yes, Captain America has been severely retconned over the years. Not only has his origins changed, the people who have been Captain America at times in history has also changed. It's been kind of a way to, I don't even know quite how to say it. In the original, the first time Captain America had died, and I don't cover this in the intro because that's not Golden Age at all. It was the plane. Everybody knows about the plane that he tried to stop from blowing up. It blows up. He gets knocked in the Arctic, and Buckey goes somewhere else. Now, that was actually Steve Rogers, but they say that the adventures before the plane that Captain America, Steve Rogers, first appeared in Captain America #1 in 1940. The publisher was Timley Comics. He was created by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby. One of the things I thought was interesting about this is he premiered in his debut comic. Now, although it was not unusual for comic book characters to get their own comic book, it was unusual for them to start in their own comic book. I mean, there's a number of characters that I have reviewed over the years, if you've been watching my Golden Age videos, and I mentioned that they get self-titles, but they didn't start with them. The Shield, the Wizard, Superman, and Batman, all of them started in other publications before they got their own. So starting off with your own publication was unusual, but that's actually something that Timely wanted to do. They wanted to start with a self-title. Interestingly enough, the name America was always attached to them, but they wanted to name him Super America at first. But they quoted in saying there were too many supers around. Captain America had a good sound to it. There weren't a lot of captains in comic books. It was easy as that. And also quoting, the boy companion was simply named Buckey, after a friend, Bucky Pearson, a star on our high school basketball team. So they came up with Captain because there wasn't a lot of captains, and Bucky was named after a real person. Now, in the original origin story for Captain America, he was given an injection for the super soldier serum, and that would be the origin that was held to him until they changed it in 1959 with them changing Captain America's origin story. It was around the drug thing. They thought with him taking an injection with a syringe kind of may have promoted drug culture, so they changed it to a serum that he drank instead. and that gave him the super soldier serum. And the origin again would get changed in 1969 when they would again relaunch the Captain America comics. And what they did in this is they had to keep the super soldier serum because that is what he got. But in the retelling of the origin again, Erskine's, I think that's how the doctor pronounced, says that he's already given him the serum. They don't show him getting an injection or drinking it, but they show the experiment of the ray machine giving him the powers. Now, I know that Stan Lee was big on experiments giving people powers. I mean, he did the similar with Spider-Man, the Incredible Hulk being created by radiation. He was always interested in things like science for the Ant-Man and Iron Man. So him having an experiment with the Vita rays didn't seem that unusual because that's something that Stan Lee was always fascinated with. Now, in the original artwork, and you'll see it, he has a different kind of shield than the circular one that we all know for. When they first put out Captain America, MLJ Comics, was before they became Archie Comics, was telling Timley that they couldn't use this symbol because it resembled the Shield, which is a character of theirs that came out before Captain America, and it looked too much like their character, and people might get confused. So they acquiesced, and by the second issue, he had the circular shield. Now, it's funny, throughout the Golden Age and into the modern age, the colors would change. In some of the comic issues, we have the red outer rim. They would sometimes have a blue outer rim. Like, they couldn't decide how the shield was supposed to be colored. By issue 3, Stan Lee actually came out with the idea of Captain America's shield being the weapon that would bounce all over the place and come back to him, defying the laws of physics. Now, Captain America started out with the amazing writing of Joe Simon and the amazing artwork of Jack Kirby, but they wouldn't be involved in the comic book for very long, where they would go over to DC Comics, and other artists would take over the Captain America comics, and Captain America was extremely popular. He started appearing in the All Winners comics, Marvel Mystery Comics, USA Comics, and All Select Comics. And when he started appearing in those comics, he started appearing on every issue. Now, he would also be part of the All Winner Squadrons, which, interestingly enough, they formed a team in issue number 19, and he had two stories in number 19 and number 21. They never printed an issue number 20, which nobody can seem to figure out why. So, we all know that Captain America's longtime partner was Bucky, but he did not stay with just Bucky throughout all of the Golden Age. At one point through the comic books, and I can't remember the last issue it was, I think it was issue number 64, Bucky would get shot, and while he was in recovery, he would team up with Golden Girl, who was actually his girlfriend, and then Now, Golden Girl would actually be trained by Captain America, and then she would be his partner for a while. Now, what's interesting is Golden Girl would be appearing on the covers of the comic books until Bucky would make his official return, which is also kind of weird because in the issues that they put out, there was still some Captain America stories with him teaming up with Bucky, so I don't know how the continuity quite works out. And I can see why Golden Girl would be in here. This was the time when there was a big surgence of females into the comic books, like with Submariner and the Human Torch and all that. And there's still the claim that at the time it was to bring in female readers, but she's wearing a mini skirt. Tell me who that's for. But she would be as the partner for a while, and she was surprisingly capable. Okay, now I'm always finding research as I'm going over these comic books. One of the main reasons that they went from the injection to the drinking of the super soldier serum, as I just mentioned, was actually because of the comic code authority. They had already put a veto over graphic descriptions of drug intake and abuse, and then that's why the super soldier serum was retconned to the formula that he would drink instead of being the injection, which is really kind of ridiculous because back when the origin story came out, they didn't have that. But they decided to do that to retell the formula, and I believe getting the super soldier serum now is a 3-step formula, but that's modern, that's not back then. Now, as I said, he would team up with Golden Gal, and after a while, really weird, they changed to this kind of anthology format with the Captain America comics. For 2 issues, they did Captain America's Weird Tales, and in the second issue of the Weird Tales, Captain America's story didn't even appear, even though it was Captain America's Weird Tales. So that was issue 73 and 74. So by issue 75, Buckey comes back, and then the title wouldn't last much long after that. Now, I do know that after a while, Timely would change themselves to Atlas Comics, and Atlas Comics would try to bring back Captain America, Thor, and Torch, and the Submariner, and that didn't work really at all. Nobody was really interested in that until they brought him back in Modern Marvel. One of the things that made Captain America so popular was because not only was he wearing basically a version of the flag, he was a pure symbol of truth, justice, and the American way. I know Superman also often touted that, but Captain America was a symbol, which was one of the things that made the Shield so popular. And the reason that Captain America was able to stand the test of time while other superheroes were fading away is because not only was he a symbol of America that everybody can get behind, he wasn't super powered. It was a perfect specimen of a human being. He could lift the max amount that a perfect human specimen could lift. He could run at the speeds that a perfect human specimen could get. You see what I'm saying? Big, muscular, human perfection, not superhuman. But even Captain America would fade away with time. So let's go ahead and cover the first appearance of Captain America. Now, I'm actually going to cover his first and second story because his first story is only 8 pages and he appears in the last 2 pages of his first story. So that'll be his origin. And then we'll go ahead and go over his second story so you can kind of get an idea of what Captain America's ideology was back then and what made him so popular. So let's get to it. Captain America, case number 1, meet Captain America, which is kind of weird because there is no case number 2. Even the next story doesn't say case number 2. I don't know why it was there. Captain America, USA, 1941. As the ruthless warmongers of Europe focus their eyes on the peace-loving America, the youth of our country heed the call to arm for defense. But great as the danger of foreign attack is the threat of invasion from within, the dread fifth column. It was easy joining the army with these forged papers. Now, to carry out the Fuhrer's plan, everything is in readiness. American munitions, and then down here at the corner, you see Captain America off to the side. Joe Simon and Jack Kirby. So we come into this and we see that these guys who are following the Fuhrer's plans, as they said, are blowing up, classic plunger, are blowing up this munitions plant, and there's a meeting in Washington. But I tell you, Mr. President, there's no stopping this vermin. They are so firmly entrenched in our ranks that I hesitate to give a confidential report to even my most trusted aide. Now, what the president says here is kind of funny. What would you suggest, gentlemen? A character out of the comic books? Perhaps the Human Torch in the army would solve our problem. Now, the reason I actually find this kind of funny is in Marvel Projects in 2009, the Human Torch actually does join the police force. So, I know he's just making a joke, but I think it's kind of funny that they actually answered something like that in Marvel Projects. Okay. But the president says, okay, it's time to get serious, and he calls in somebody, J. Arthur Grover. So the next page we get introduced to him, and he's the head of the FBI, and the FBI takes some high-ranking officials, but he has them dressed in civilian clothes so they won't get noticed. Now, he takes them to a curio shop, and right here it says curious. I think that's supposed to be like an antiquity store. I really don't know. It's the terminology from the 40s, but I'm going to go with. So, as they entered in, a gnarly, bony hand reaches for a waiting automatic. So the old hands pick up a gun, but when she recognizes the official, she puts the gun away. I'm glad to see you, sir. I think you won't be disappointed this time. The formula has been found. They're waiting for you now. So they open the secret doorway, and as they approach, they find out that they're in a modern for that time, laboratory. Then, as they look at the old woman, she starts to tear off a rubber face. Very Mission Impossible in the Captain America comic. So she takes off the mask, and we find that she is X-13, and they all sit up to watch the experiment unfold. Now, we don't actually get introduced to the doctor's name, and we will in a minute. And it's not the doctor who I thought it was. Okay. So they watch. Don't be afraid, son. You are about to become one of America's saviors. And he gets injected with the formula. And he says, now watch for the reaction. And this is important. Observe this young man closely. Today, he volunteered for Army service and was refused because of his unfit condition. His chance to serve his country seems gone. Little does he realize that the serum coursing through his blood is rapidly building his body and brain tissues until his stature and intelligence increases to an amazing degree. And he begins to transform right before their eyes. And he goes from scrawny nothing Steve Rogers to the pinnacle of human perfection. And if you remember the Captain America movie, just kind of picture that without Chris Evans' face. So he says, behold, the crowning achievement of all my years of hard work, the first of a corps of super agents whose mental and physical abilities will make them the terror of spies and saboteurs. And he says, I'm going to call you Captain America. And just over here, a guy starts to reach into his jacket. I'm afraid this is one experiment that must never reach its final test. Death to the dogs of democracy! And he also shoots the scientist, and he says, Professor Reinstein, what? Which is funny, because I didn't know his name was Reinstein. I thought it was Erskine, but hey, they're calling him Reinstein. That's who he is. The muffled gun speaks again before the group can recover from its surprise. The vial containing the valuable serum shatters into 1,000 pieces. His treachery discovered, he also shoots the head of the FBI, and the agent's trying to tell him to look out. I don't know if he died, I just know he shot him. Suddenly, the enemy's eyes widen in horror as the terrible vengeance of the form of Captain America leaps towards him, and he breaks through the experimental glass, which is supposed to be able to hold back explosions. He reaches through and yanks the guy out and punches him so hard that he lands into some laboratory equipment, and it courses 1,000,000 volts of electricity to burn out his life. It says 1,000,000 volts. So there's some weird thing with the paneling here. Nothing left of him but charred ashes, a fate well deserved. Who is Captain America? A whole nation thrills to his daring exploits. His name becomes a symbol of courage to millions of Americans, and by word of terror in the shadow world of spies. And then we see these articles. Captain America captures spy ring. Captain America nabbed spy. Captain America prevents dam explosion. Who is Captain America? Captain America, nation's #1 spy buster. And now we head over to Camp Lehigh, where Captain Rogers is stationed at, and we meet Buckey. He's kind of the Army's mascot, and Buckey is gushing about the exploits of Captain America. That same night, when Buckey visits Steve's tent, he makes a startling discovery. What in... Hello, Steve. I came down to... What? Why, you're Captain America, you little rascal. I ought to tie in your hide. That's a weird thing to say to a young boy. I guess you got me dead to rights. I am Captain America. So he says, now we're going to go... We're going to be partners. I automatically make you a partner. And so Bucky's dream is fulfilled as he fights side by side with Captain America against the vicious elements who seek to overthrow the U.S. government. Here, you can become a member of Captain America's Sentinels of Liberty and join Captain America in his war against spies and enemies in our midst who threaten our very independence. I would love to have one of these Sentinel of Liberty pins. And it's kind of funny because they put Captain America and Bucky on here, but nobody knows who Betty Ross is yet. And no, it's not the Betty Ross that hooks up with Bruce Banner later. I really don't think so. All you needed to do was 10 cents and you got a pen and this member of the Sentinel of Liberty. Yes, I'd love to have one of those. And that ends the first story. Captain America by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby. What connection was there between the wave of sabotage that swept the U.S. defense industry and the strange little man who predicted it would happen? No man but Captain America could solve the riddle. It's the Captain and I against the enemies of liberty. So there's a show going on today, Sando and Omar. Get your tickets, just 10 cents. 10 cents to see a show? Sign me up for the 40s. So they're putting on this stage show as how they are going to be able to predict the future. Sando can make Omar read through the crystal ball. I guess they're saying it took both of them a pair of eyes. Meet and lock. Dwarfed Amar seems to vibrate under the terrific strain. Think, Omar, think hard. And they're wondering if he can get it done. And he says, as he sees in the crystal ball, a strange action is about to happen at Fort Bix. At that very instant, during war maneuvers, Fort Bix is shaken by a terrible blast. I'd never believe it. And just 2 seconds ago, this is over loudspeaker. And just 2 seconds ago, Fort Bix was blown to pieces by the most mysterious manner. No word on how. Private Rogers and Bucky reads the news. How fast did the news reach them? I mean, did it print off the next day? I guess so. Anyways. They say that they want to actually figure out what's going on, and then Sando and Omar are at the Olympia. That'd be like, I don't know how big the Olympia was. That'd be like Madison Square or something? I don't know. So, Bucky, there's some people asking them, reporters, you'll have to see it for yourselves, gentlemen. In the next act, Rogers and Bucky decide to drop in on the show. And as they did in the previous show, the two work together, and he sees in the crystal ball, I see a bridge, the Hilltown Bridge. It's thick with traffic. The bridge is going to collapse. And Bucky and Cap hear that, and they dart out to try to go to the bridge before anything happens to it. At that instant, a thunderous explosion from the outside, and Captain America knows that he is too late to prevent the disaster. Boom! So they go back to stage thinking that Sando and Omar have something to do with it. Let's see what Omar has to say, Captain America. Just a minute, Crystal Gazers. So Cap confronts Sando, and Bucky chases after Omar. Now, Captain America doesn't want Sando to go anywhere, so he delivers a blow that knocks him out. A womanly shrill cry for help causes Captain America to whirl about. That's great. It came from Sando's dressing room. That might have been the instant that he punched him. The paneling is kind of weird. I'm glad that there's no arrows pointing to which the next panel, but you got to kind of make your determination over which the next panel is. If the paneling hadn't been weird and curved, it would have been a little bit easier. I hate when people walk outside the panel. Jack Kirby doesn't normally do that too often. Captain America entered a darkened room, and the light suddenly goes on. Come in, Captain America. We've been expecting you. Why do they always say that? Okay, so he stumbles into the room, and the girl goes ahead and introduces herself. Betty Ross is my name, Captain. It seems we both have an interest in the same case. You're being held at gunpoint, lady. And Bucky has also been captured, too. And just then the door opens and Sando enters, nursing his aching jaw. You'll pay for that blow here, Captain America. With slow torture. So you're one of the Fuhrer's flunkies, Sando? The name is Von Kratz, and I plan a chain of disasters that will destroy the morale of your whole country. Then why the fortune teller act? You're just shedding light on yourself. I mean, when the explosion at Fort Bix happened, they said that they had no idea how the explosion happened. So apparently, you guys were covering your tracks. You just opened yourself up. I've been investigating this ring for the government. Poor idiotic Omar is Von Kratz's tool. The Gestapo planned the explosions, and Von Kratz and Omar predicted them. I still don't see why you have the prediction. I mean, Betty Ross may be investigating them, but on her part, all she has is hearsay. They kind of gave it up by making the predictions. Anyways, Captain America rampages through and starts beating up the bad guys, and Bucky throws the one that had him captured, and looks at Captain America delivers a blow so hard he goes flying across the room, and then decides to punch him punch him again. Punch everybody! Keep punching! Fist solves all your problems. No, don't do that. Now you will breathe your last here, Captain. I'm going to blast us all to bits. And he lights this bomb that Bucky immediately throws out the window with no regard for who's out the window. I mean, seriously, if there were people out there, you blew them all up. Nice work, Bucky. Yes, you've killed a whole bunch of people on the street, but nice work. You finished Von Kratz and his boy. And apparently Betty is working for the FBI. Well, she says keep them covered while the FBI arrives. Yes, but wait. You can't go. I want to thank you. Perhaps some other time. Good night, Miss Ross. Captain America and Bucky disappear into the night, leaving behind them a wrecked spy ring and a puzzled girl. Watch for the next big issue. Captain America would like to hear from you. Write and tell him how you liked his book. Address the letters to Captain America, 330 West 42nd Street, New York City. Now, I'm not sure of the first appearance of the Red Skull. It could possibly be in this comic book. But one of the last stories, the Red Skull does appear. So the Red Skull does make an appearance in here. Now, most of these are Captain America strips. There's a tech story. And then there's a story of a guy called Hurricane. He's dressed like Mercury, but he's Hurricane, son of Thor, god of thunder. I don't know who Hurricane is. Maybe we can cover him some other time. And then after Hurricane is Chuck the Cave Boy. So just like with the Human Torch comics, it's not all Captain America. So this one's got two other people in it who are probably just one and done characters. And that is the second story. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope that you've learned a little bit about Captain America. Now, the big three in Marvel is the Human Torch and Captain America, and we've covered those two. We're going to do the third big name, and tune in next week to see it. Until then, I'll be seeing you.